Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Jekyll and Hyde. In this video, we're going to be having a little look at all of the past papers for the Edexcel Literature Paper 2, obviously focusing on Jekyll Hyde. So we'll look at the extracts and the wider questions to see if we can get a little bit of a steer on what could be on that paper on Wednesday next week. I don't have a crystal ball. These are just ideas. It will help you rule out maybe a couple of things, but it will just give you a little bit of focus on where to look. But as always, I thoroughly recommend revising widely. That is your best bet. But for now, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start with the extract. Obviously, the extract is incredibly difficult to predict because it could be any page of that novella, so we're never going to get it bang on, but there are some things that we can look at. So for example, if you look down the list, including the samples and the specimens, you'll realize that there has never been an extract from the full statement of the case, the last chapter, which is a sizable beast. It's like a quarter or a third of the whole novella. You've also not had anything from the remarkable incident of Dr. Lanyon, but you have had Lanyon's narrative. But when you look at what the passage was from Lanyon's narrative, it was actually the letter. So it was the letter that Hyde sends him pretending to be Jekyll. There's nothing on like the big transformation of Lanyon. So that's a possibility as well. Now, the Carrow murder case, that chapter, has only been dealt with in the sample. And again, it was the journey to Hyde's house. So we've not yet had that big kind of violent scene. We've not had like Hyde killing Carrow. We've not even had Hyde trampling over the girl. So there are some real big scenes there that haven't been looked at. Like I said, this isn't about prediction because that's not possible, but what I would say is when you are practicing your extract analysis, why not just take those particular ones to practice on? So something from chapter 10, something from chapter 4, like the actual bit of violence itself, something that looking at Lanyon, just you never know. Okay, what we really want to think about is the wider. And you can look down the list and you can see some patterns, okay? So we've had only two characters. We've had Utterson and we've had Hyde's importance. We've had three that are all based on sort of friendship. Friendship, help, awful paper, and relationships in the specimen. So I think we can probably just about rule that out tentatively because you never know what an exam board is going to do. So just be prepared for everything. We've had reputation very recently, so that's unlikely. And then we've had this like terror and horrific scenes as well. Now, what is really notable, just as we didn't have chapter 10 and just as we didn't have the remarkable incident in the extracts, we've not had anything on Dr. Jekyll, the man himself. So I'd definitely do some proper Jekyll revision. Have a little look at my video on Jekyll, it might help you out. We've also not had Lanyon. Now that would be tricky because he's only in a couple of parts. He gets a little mention in chapter 2, but otherwise, really, he's only in 2 other chapters, but it is doable. So it's worth having a little look at. In terms of themes, duality as a theme has not yet come up. Now, some people think that it's unlikely to come up because the concept of it is quite hard. The vocabulary surrounding it is quite high level. Duality isn't a word that is used very often. But you can't hide from the fact, oh God, sorry about the pun. You can't get away from the fact that the message of the novella is about the duality of mankind. So have a little look at that. Science is another thing that hasn't come up, the importance of science or the role science plays. And another one that I think is really interesting is the notion of transformations, like the way that people change. But you could even, if you got a question on transformations, you could look at the actual transformation itself and what it signifies. And you can look at how the experimentation creates change in people. It creates change in Utterson. He becomes so obsessed with finding out more. Certainly changes Lanyon because he carks it. and it certainly changes Jekyll. So that's quite an interesting one to look at. But the good news is, guys, is that if you're, if you're revising Dr. Jekyll, Dr. Lanyon and other characters, if you're revising some of these big ideas here, the crossover is going to be huge. There's going to be such a big crossover. And like I say at the beginning, I don't have a crystal ball. We can't know. Do you know what I mean? We can't tell for certain. So just revise broadly, have really good quotations that cover a number of characters and themes, and show that you know the novella. Just that's what you've got to do. Show that you know it. Got some videos available to you on character and theme in my Jekyll and Hyde playlist. So do go and have a little look at those if you need a bit of help getting your flashcards together. That's it from me then. Thank you so much for joining me once more. Happy revising. Oh, and good luck, because the exam's soon.